Welcome back, everybody, to the Miami Marlins franchise here on MLB The Show 23. We've made it to the halfway point here in season number 2. Currently, the team is 44-46. We'll briefly cover the All-Star break today, and then we're going to make it up to the trade deadline, which will be in the next episode. Last time around, we went through the 2024 MLB draft. In case you missed that episode, I will leave a card at the top right of your screen to go ahead and check it out. But I thought we had a pretty good draft. The guy who I really wanted in the first round was third baseman Agustin De La Cruz, and he did not make it to our 11th overall pick. But I think we were able to rebound pretty well despite not getting the guy we want. Our top draft pick was shortstop Ronald Andino from Puerto Rico. In the second round, we drafted starting pitcher Hitoki Nomo, and I thought our depth picks down the board were pretty solid. Obviously, Nomo and Andino are the two picks that really stand out, though. Andino is somebody who I think can win a Gold Glove in the future. He's got a lot of work to do offensively, but he might be the best defensive prospect with his versatility, the fact that he plays great shortstop, and his attributes just look phenomenal. And then you've got Hitoki Nomo, who's a very intriguing pitcher. Our scouts view him as a top 5 player in the draft. But the thing with him is that he is injured, and it's interesting because when we drafted him, it did not say he was injured. Both him and Andino had opted out of their physical exams, but since we drafted them, both of their results have come back. Andino is healthy, and Nomo is not, so that very well could determine if we choose to sign Nomo or not, which we will get into the signing of draft picks process a little bit later today. Our first focus will be briefly going through the All-Star break. We're going to simulate through this last game on the road against the Dodgers, who are really good. And we would end up losing 2-1 as Clayton Kershaw gets the better of Sandy Alcantara. The offense did pretty much nothing other than a Jorge Soler solo home run. So we were 44-47 going into the break. We're in second place in the division, albeit 17.5 games behind first. And we are certainly well within the wild card race. I think the offense has been the strength of the team. We've seen some guys really improve this season, in my opinion. Brian De La Cruz, Jazz Chisholm, Nick Fortes, Rowdy Tellez, Jesus Sanchez. They've all been really good. Luis Ariz as well. The pitching has been up and down. We've seen Edward Cabrera really break out. Yuri Perez has looked like a true professional at just 20 years old. Sandy Alcantara has had his good and bad moments this year. The bullpen have certainly had their bad moments this year. But I think overall, this team very well could be pushing for a wild card spot as we're currently the first team out in the National League. We will start with the Home Run Derby briefly, and unfortunately, we do not have anybody in the Derby. It's a very star-studded group of 8 of the best hitters in baseball. We had 4 guys with at least 15 homers, but the threshold to get in the Derby was well over 20, and we just don't have anybody who was quite able to get to that. The All-Star Game this year is in Texas at the new Globe Life Park, which was built just a few years ago. So we'll take a look at what happens here through the bracket. In the first round, most of the lower seeds won. Actually, every lower seed won other than Rafael Devers, the top seed in the tournament. We would ultimately have a championship of Rafael Devers and Mike Trout. We'll see if number 7 seed Mike Trout can get the job done, and he would ultimately hit 23 homers, a steep mark for Rafael Devers to beat. And to Devers' credit, he almost did it. He got 22 as this one's going to go just over at the buzzer. Actually, not really just over. That was 430 feet. Who am I kidding? That was a nuke. Nonetheless, Mike Trout ends up winning the Home Run Derby. The best player of our generation adds another milestone to a ridiculous Hall of Fame career. He's done another thing before ever winning his first playoff series or even playoff game, I believe. So Mike Trout wins the Derby in Texas. That'll bring us to the All-Star Game now, but before we get to the game itself, we got to find out who are the All-Stars in both the American and National Leagues. Last year, we only had one All-Star with catcher Nick Fortes. Fortes has been even better this year, so we'll see if he makes it or if he ends up missing out. Obviously, every team has to have at least one representative. That's how the All-Star Game works in baseball, so we're going to have at least one no matter what. The starter for the National League will be former Marlins prospect Zach Gallen. That's got to hurt a little bit. Shohei Ohtani making it in as well, along with Fried, Wheeler, and Kershaw. Looking at the bullpen, we've got our very own Jordan Hicks in the All-Star Game. Very well deserved. He's been a phenomenal free agent signing. 24 saves, 0 blown. I feel like I've barely pitched in-game with Hicks this year. Pretty much all the games that I've played for episodes do not end up in save situations for us. Either we win by a lot or we lose. It seems like there's no in between, but he has been a phenomenal pickup for us and absolutely deserves it. The National League is 3 catchers, none of whom are Nick Fortes. I feel like he was really snubbed in my opinion. Absolutely deserved to be an All-Star this year, but unfortunately he does not get the nod. We will have Brian De La Cruz get in, however, the first-time All-Star at 27 years old. De La Cruz has really broken out this year. He is on pace to shatter his career marks in hits, doubles, home runs, RBIs. He's hitting .306 with an OPS above 900. I mean, he has really broken out offensively. Defensively, we know he isn't the greatest, at least in the games that I've played, hence why he's mostly played DH this year. But he still has been phenomenal at the plate, and I do feel like he deserves it. Brian Reynolds made it in center field. I suppose that is somewhat relevant because the Pirates very well could trade him by the end of the month. And then here's a look at the American League All-Stars. Luis Severino, now with the Boston Red Sox, will be the starting pitcher in the game for the AL squad. Other than that, nothing super notable here. A lot of the names that you would expect to see. So let's hop into the 2024 MLB All-Star Game here in Texas. The American League and the National League will face off for the next Midsummer Classic. The MLB All-Star Game is always a lot of fun, certainly more enjoyable than the other major All-Star Games because it's a lot harder to not try in baseball. Here's a look at your starting lineups. Obviously, no Marlins in there, as we know, but hopefully we will eventually get guys into the All-Star starting lineup. So we will simcast this game, and we will hop in where there's any opportunity for our guys to make a play. So we'll get started here at the top of the first inning, and Ronald Acuna gets things going with a solo homer off of Severino to put the NL on the board. We'll see what Zach Wheeler can do as he allows a single to Tucker. Other than that, smooth sailing. Manny Machado leads off the second with a solo homer, so the National League now leads 2-0. Acuna and Machado getting things quickly going for the NL. As for Zach Wheeler, he'll make it through 2 scoreless pretty easily. Into the third, both teams now making pitching changes as Alek Manoah is in for the AL. He would get through the inning pretty easily, and we will bring into the game none other than Shohei Ohtani, the unicorn himself. He allows a single to Altuve and Tucker, but Yordan Alvarez grounds into a double play. Bieber fever. Shane Bieber now in for the AL. He would get through the inning pretty easily. Zach Gallen now here in the bottom of the fourth. Gallen got the most votes among NL pitchers. You would have thought he would have been starting, but he's not. Still 2-0. Tariq Skubal of the Tigers in. He has been phenomenal this year. The big lefty allows a double to Thairo Estrada. Looking to make it out of the inning here as we're going to start to bring in some of the pinch hitters. In for Trey Turner will be Ahmed Rosario with the Diamondbacks, and he is out. Into the bottom of the fifth, Max Fried, the lefty, will now enter the game. He'll retire the side. The AL offense still getting nothing going as we move on to the sixth. I think this is the inning where Brian De La Cruz will make his first appearance. It won't be here, though. Stephen Kwan will check in for Ronald Acuna. He'll face off against Drew Rasmussen. He flies out. And then for Soto, we're going to bring in our guy, Brian De La Cruz, the first-time All-Star, hopefully first of many for him, as he's got a 1-2 count here against Rasmussen of the Rays. De La Cruz splits the third baseman and the shortstop for a single into left field. Brian De La Cruz's All-Star career gets started off pretty strong with a base hit as he is aboard first safely with a single. Let's see if these guys can bring him in. In for Fernando Tatis, we will bring in William Contreras, the young catcher with the Milwaukee Brewers. Should have been Nick Fortes, but I digress. He strikes out. And then in for Machado will be Austin Riley, and he will get a base hit. So that'll give a big opportunity here with 2 on and 2 away for Jock Peterson of the Giants, and he grounds into a fielder's choice. Still 2-0 now. The veteran Clayton Kershaw is in. The AL keeping all their starters in the game as Kershaw retires the side. Into the seventh, more substitutions now. Tyler Stevenson facing off against Clay Holmes. In for Walker will be Big Meat Pete Alonso. He's a free agent. He reaches base. Now we get to some of the guys who aren't really all that good, like Luis Garcia, Ezequiel Tovar. These guys are only here because their teams have nobody else who's deserving. So because of that, they get to be all-stars. Good for them, I guess. And they, unsurprisingly, do nothing. We're going to get Jordan Hicks in here pretty soon, but not the seventh inning. Instead, we will bring into the game Evan Phillips of the Los Angeles Dodgers. And now the AL is starting to get some new guys in. A good inning for Phillips. Into the eighth inning now, we will see De La Cruz here again. They'll be going up against Jason Adam, another Tampa Bay Rays pitcher. So he is faced off against 2 Tampa Bay Rays today. The 2-2 pitch, De La Cruz pops it up. That was a pitch up and away in the zone. Would have been nice to see him capitalize. But instead, he flies out to short as it's caught by Corey Seager of the hometown Texas Rangers. We'll see if Adam can get out of the rest of the inning, and he will. So we'll go to the bottom of the 8th now. This is where Jordan Hicks will enter the game. Hicks getting an opportunity here to get a pitching appearance in the All-Star game. The score is still 2-0. There's been no offense since the Manny Machado homer back in the 2nd inning. Cal Raleigh, the big dumper, leads it off. He flies out to left, and it's caught by Brian De La Cruz from a first out of the inning. The Hicks and De La Cruz connection working out there. Jake Berger of the White Sox is up next. He swings and misses at the inside fastball. A filthy pitch by Jordan Hicks. Now he's facing off against Jose Abreu, the former White Sox. And this one will one-hop off the wall and left. De La Cruz slow to get to it. Shocker. And that'll be a double. So the American League has a runner aboard here. We'll see if they can finally get some runs across. A major opportunity here for Tyler Soderstrom, the young prospect with the Oakland A's, who has really ignited that franchise, who's needed a spark. Full count pitch for Soderstrom. Got him looking! Jordan Hicks makes it through the inning as he strikes out Soderstrom on the low fastball, and the score will remain 2-0 as the American League bench shows a major sigh of defeat. Into the 9th now, Ryan Presley checks into the game as he allows a double to Josh Rojas, and Jock Peterson will drive him in with a single. So the National League now leads 3-0. Blast out the trumpets because Edwin Diaz is in for the save. He'll start with Alex Verdugo at the Red Sox. He flies out. Taylor Ward draws a walk, so there's a base runner for the AL. Carlos Correa lines out, and then the following batter would be out as well. So the National League wins the 2024 All-Star Game, spoiling the fun for the hometown Texas Rangers and the American League, as the NL wins it 3-0 with homers in the first 2 innings by Ronald Acuna and Manny Machado, finished off with the icing on the cake with an RBI single by Jock Peterson in the 9th. Overall, both offenses really struggled. Brian De La Cruz is solid. He went 1 for 2 with a hit. And then Jordan Hicks shut out in his inning, as did every other National League pitcher, considering the American League did not put up a single run. So the All-Star break will come and go. It was nice having 2 guys represented, but hopefully we'll have more in the future. Before we go any further, though, I do want to look at the minor league All-Stars. For the AA team, we had a number of guys, including Jake Eder, Robbie Jones, one of our top prospects, Jorge Mercedes out of the bullpen, so that's 3 pitchers, but wait till you see all the hitters. Joel Beltran, starting in the All-Star game. Woody Landry, starting in the All-Star game. We'll talk about Woody a little bit more in a second. Khalil Watson, starting in the All-Star game. So that's 4 offensive players already. Davis Bradshaw in the outfield made it. Anthony Peguero made it, along with Kevin Alcantara. Alcantara has been at AA for only like half the year, but he happens to make it. As for AAA, it's a lot more selective. Adonis Takadopoulos out of the bullpen got in. He's going to get called up quite soon with how well he has been playing since we signed him last offseason. Not a whole ton of position players. We would get Jacob Berry in there. It's not a major surprise, but we don't have a lot of guys in the AAA All-Star game since our AAA team is pretty bad. But still good to see our guys getting All-Star love. But let me go back to Woody Landry real quick. We haven't really talked a whole lot about him since the beginning of May when we did our minor league update. Since then, Woody Landry still has been really good. Look how much his attributes are going up. He's hitting .340 with 20 homers, OPS at like 1,100, more walks than strikeouts. He currently leads the Southern League in batting average, hits, doubles. He's pretty high up in triples. He is first in home runs. He has doubled more than second place. He is first in RBIs by a lot. He is first in runs, not by a lot, because Khalil Watson is in second place. Watson's been great this year. This is my favorite one, though. Woody Landry is tied for first in stolen bases. As a first baseman, he is tied for first in stolen bases. He's also first in on-base, slugging, and OPS. He has just been utterly ridiculous. And Khalil Watson is second in on-base, slugging, and OPS. If not for Woody Landry, we'd probably be giving Khalil Watson a lot more love because he's been phenomenal as well. Both of those guys very well could get promoted pretty soon, specifically Landry, who knows, maybe he'll make it up to the big leagues this season with how he's been playing. We will make a quick roster move. The Victor Mesa Jr. experiment has not worked out so far. He hasn't been all that good, so we will be sending him back down to AAA, and then Taylor Trammell will be replacing him on the big league roster. Trammell at one point in time was a top prospect. He's gotten an opportunity with a few teams now. It hasn't really worked out, but he's played decently well in the minors, so we'll give him another opportunity here in the big leagues. He'll be coming off the bench full-time. Jorge Soler will now be an everyday player. Soler's been playing really well lately. I think he deserves it. So we're going to simulate through this first series against the Rockies. I want to get a look at the Minnesota Twins. They are a pretty good team in the American League. We took 2 of 3 against the Rockies, scoring 31 runs in our last 2 games. So the second game we won 10-7, and then the third game we won 21-5. You would think these games would be in Colorado, but no! We were at home. It was not at Coors. It was at our park. In the second game, the offense exploded. Homers for De La Cruz and Segura. They each drove in 3. The pitching wasn't great, but they didn't need to be great. And then in game 3, we scored 21. We had 6 in the first. We led 8-0 after 2. We led 14-0 after 5. The whole offense was great. Pretty much everybody drove in runs. Tellez drove in 5. Sanchez had 4 hits and drove in 6. Jesus Sanchez's average is now above 250 for what it's worth. Chisholm and Tellez went deep. Sanchez went deep twice. And again, the pitching was nothing more than mediocre, but that's fine. We scored 21 runs. I want to play this second game here against the Twins. Going to look at former Miami Marlin Pablo Lopez. We ended up losing the first one 5-2. The offensive outrage kind of stops there. So that'll bring us to the second game of the series here at home. Our Marlins are 46-49. We've had an eventful start since the All-Star break with a 10-run game and a 21-run game against the Rockies. We've got our ace, Sandy Alcantara, making his first start of the second half of the season, going up against his good friend and former teammate, Pablo Lopez, who was traded in the winter of 2022 in exchange for Luis Ariz. And I think that deal has worked out pretty well for us up to this point. Here's a look at Sandy, who started the season off pretty rough for his standards, but he's gotten right back to business. He's been the best pitcher in the National League over the last month or so. 2.82 ERA, sub-1 whip. He's back to the Sandy that we all know and love as he faces off against Carlos Correa, the big money shortstop. Got him on the outside slider. Sandy Alcantara retires the side here in the top of the first as we get a look at the former Marlin Pablo Lopez, who's been okay with the Twins this year. 4.01 ERA, 1.54 whip. Not great for his standards, but certainly not awful by any stretch, as he will face off against the man he was traded for a couple years ago. It's Luis Ariz, hitting .326 with projections that will pass his career highs in power as he draws a walk to start the game. That'll bring up Brian De La Cruz, the first-time All-Star this year. De La Cruz hits a pitch well out of the zone, but that'll go for a base hit. Good start here for the Marlins. They have 2 early base runners, and that'll bring up Rowdy Tellez with 1 away. He singles into left field. Ariz will look to score. De La Cruz to third. Both runners are safe. It's an RBI single for Rowdy Tellez, and the Marlins lead it 1-0. They've still got runners on the corners and another opportunity to extend the lead, as that'll bring up Nick Fortes, the All-Star snub. He's got a full count. Lines this one into left center. That should be more than enough room for De La Cruz to score off the sacrifice. Byron Buxton does make the grab, but De La Cruz will score pretty easily. So the Marlins take a 2-0 lead here in the bottom of the first. Sandy's got some early run support as he strikes out Jorge Polanco on the slider. Again, retiring the side here in the second as we go to the bottom half of the inning. Jorge Soler is up with 2 away. Grounds it up the middle. That'll go for a base hit. If not for the shift, that's probably an out. But I guess Minnesota outsmarted themselves, and so the Marlins had themselves another base runner. That'll bring up the top of the order. We'll see if Miami can extend their lead. Luis Ariz is up with a full count. He's going to hit this one into the right center gap. That'll go for a hit. Soler thought about third momentarily. He heads back to second, so now there's 2 on, 2 away. Really big opportunity here for Brian De La Cruz. Can he drive these guys in? I don't think so. He pops this one up into right, and this ball will be caught. So Miami gets a couple aboard late, but they don't score anybody here in the second, as they still lead it 2-0. Can Minnesota's offense get anything going in the third? Christian Vasquez leads it off for Minnesota. He goes down looking on the 12-6 curve. A filthy pitch from Sandy Alcantara. Now against Trevor Larnach. Got him on the 12-6 again. Sandy has struck out 4 so far in 3 perfect innings of ball. He is not allowed to run. He's not allowed to hit. Not allowed to walk. Nothing. Jazz Chisholm here in the bottom of the third strikes out on the fastball. Pablo Lopez starting to get into a little bit of a groove himself. Into the fourth now, Jimmy Schaefer goes down on the slider. Another strikeout for Sandy. 2 away for Carlos Correa. Got him on the slider again. 4 perfect innings for Sandy Alcantara. Could we be looking at a perfect game? Maybe now's the time where we start to mention it. And now that I say it, we're probably going to get jinxed somehow. Bottom 4, Jesus Sanchez leads it off for Miami. He goes down on the fastball. Another strikeout for Pablo Lopez, who's really starting to do some damage. However, with one away, Segura grounds it to short, and Carlos Correa makes an incredible play for the second out of the inning. Let's move into the 5th now. Alcantara still perfect as he faces off against Jorge Polanco. The 2-2, got him on the sinker. 5 perfect innings for Sandy Alcantara. I've had no hitters go in the 6th, 7th innings and beyond. I don't think I've ever had a perfect game go this far, so we'll see how much longer Sandy can keep it going. Let's move forward to the bottom of the 5th as the Twins are going to make a pitching change. I'm a little bit surprised by that, with Pablo Lopez pitching pretty well these last few innings, but the veteran Sonny Gray will come in to replace him. Gray will face off against Luis Arraez to get things going. Arraez has reached base in both of his plate appearances today, and he will reach a 3rd time, trying to really make Minnesota regret trading him away. It's a single for Luis Arraez, and now there is a runner aboard here for Brian De La Cruz. He's got a 2-2 count here against Sonny Gray. De La Cruz has that pitch go right by him, and Arraez will advance to second. So now there's a runner in scoring position off of the wild pitch. The Marlins really trying to capitalize here with the advancement of the runner. De La Cruz thought that was ball 4. Instead, he gets called on strikes. Jazz Chisholm up now, grounds this one up the middle. Correa nearly makes it another great play, but he bobbles it. And that'll keep the inning alive. They're going to call that a base hit. I think that's the right call. But nonetheless, Rowdy Tellez looks to take advantage as that one's going to drop. Kepler unable to make the grab. 1 run scores. Chisholm looking to join. Kepler's throw is way offline, so Tellez will look to make it to 3rd. Going to be a close play, and he is out of there. A not-so-good decision to send Rowdy Tellez to 3rd base, but he still drives in 2, and the Marlins lead it 3-0. They're giving themselves some more insurance runs, but I don't think they're going to need any with how Sandy Alcantara is playing. However, Max Kepler singles into right with 1 away here at the top of the 6th. The perfect game and the no-hitter is unfortunately dead. Sandy had it go 5 1/3 innings, really impressive, but he's not going to make history tonight. Trevor Larnach, the very next batter, singles into left. Would you look at that? So now Minnesota has 2 runners aboard, and they've got a really good opportunity to finally score. 3-1 for Kyle Farmer. That pitch is outside for a walk, and the bases are now loaded. Carlos Correa up to the plate. The 1-2. Swing and a miss. That's a hat trick. Correa has struck out 3 times tonight, all 3 of which came on a slider. So the perfect game and no-hitter are dead. The Twins would actually load the bases, but they're unable to score anybody. Into the 7th, same score. Byron Buxton goes down on the sinker. Good pitch by Sandy. Over 100 pitches. Still in the game. Luke Voit beats the shift here with 1 away. Voigt's not the fastest, but he's going to look to make it over to second, and he is safe with a double. Minnesota's got a runner in scoring position. We'll see if they can drive him in. So now that will bring up the catcher, Christian Vasquez. The 1-2. Got him looking on the sinker. 7 scoreless for Sandy Alcantara, and the Marlins still lead it 4-0. We'll see if Miami can add any more runs over these next couple of innings. Here's Taylor Trammell. Hello! Trammell flips the bat as that ball goes a long way deep into the second deck and right, nearly out of the park entirely. An absolute piss missile from Taylor Trammell, his first home run of the season in his first Major League game of the season, and hopefully he can really continue to perform well here at the big league level, taking advantage of that beautiful pitch up deep into the rows and right. So the Twins will make a pitching change. Josh Winder is into the game. He'll face off against Luis Arraez, who has reached base on every single one of his plate appearances today. This time he will strike out on the low circle change. Arraez has striken out a little bit more. That's the one deficiency with his game this year. Into the 8th, Kepler goes down on the slider. Sandy is over 120 pitches, and he's still not showing any signs of slowing down. 2 away now for Jimmy Schaefer. Got him on the fastball. Schaefer, a player who the Marlins actually contemplated drafting last year, as Sandy now has 8 scoreless innings. Can he get the complete game shutout in the 9th? We'll have to see. Nick Fortes in the bottom of the 8th hits this one well into the opposite field as that one goes off the second deck for a 2-run shot. The Marlins extend their lead as they are now up 7-0. Fortes with his 16th homer of the season. Miami should be able to win the game regardless, but they're looking to add some extra insurance just in case things get a little bit dicey. 2 away now for Gene Segura. He hits this one into the gap. That one is going to drop, and the Marlins have another base runner. They're still not satisfied with their 7-0 lead. Charles LeBlanc will come in off the bench, the 2-2, and LeBlanc will single it up the middle. Segura is actually going to head to third. Risky decision. He is safe. So now there's runners on the corners and 2 away. A really big opportunity here for the next batter. It's Jorge Soler as Griffin Jacks will come out of the bullpen for Minnesota. Runners on the corners for Jorge Soler. He hits this one high and deep into right field. Back at the track. It is gone. It's a 3-run homer for Jorge, showing off that Soler power. His 8th of the year. And the Marlins are in the double figures once again. They lead at 10-0. That's their 3rd game since the All-Star break where they've scored double-digit runs. So we will go to the 9th. Sandy Alcantara grabbing his glove. He will return to the game. Even though this game is over, they want him to get the complete game shutout. He was 1 strike away, and it's not going to happen. Byron Buxton homers into left center field. The shutout is no more, and it is now 10-1. The Marlins wanted to give Sandy the satisfaction of getting the complete game and the shutout. Now he will get neither. He had a short leash in this inning, and we're going to take him out. No reason to have him throw his arm out. Still, nonetheless, a phenomenal performance here from Sandy Alcantara, going 8 2/3, only allowing 1. If Sandy wasn't back already, he is definitely back now. He has been very good over his last 6 or 7 starts, and A.J. Puck will come into the game to try to finish things off. Puck has a 3.71 ERA on the season. He'll face off against Luke Voigt, who's going to ground this one over to short. Jazz Chisholm will look to make the play. He does. And that is your ball game. The Marlins win in blowout fashion 10-1 over the Minnesota Twins. I'm not going to call them the Twins because I've got to take the W out of their name. How about the Minnesota Twins? You just add an L in there. Nonetheless, a really good performance for us offensively. Our 3rd game since the All-Star break with double-digit runs, and we've only played 5 games. That's really, really impressive. The offense has been fantastic. The pitching was great, too. I mean, Sandy Alcantara was great. 1 run, 4 hits, 8 2/3, and then the offense backed him up completely. Ever since the start of this game, we got some runs early. We scored 6 in the last 2 innings, 5 in the 8th specifically. The power really came alive late with the homer by Taylor Trammell in the 7th, and then a pair of homers in the 8th from Fortes and Soler. A great win here for the Marlins as we get the victory 10-1. We're now 47-49. We're going to wrap up the Minnesota series, simulate past Baltimore. I want to get a look at the Boston Red Sox at Fenway. They are one of the better teams in the AL. So we did not win the last game against the Twins. They end up winning the series. But we sweep Baltimore, scoring 10, 6, and 8 in each of those games. Our offense averaged 8 runs per game against the Orioles. The offense has just been so good. Chisholm, Fortes, Sanchez, all these guys are playing so well. Jorge Soler even as well. We've had the best offense in baseball since the All-Star break. Jesus Sanchez I want to talk about in particular. His OPS has risen up by like 60 points. His average has gone up by like 30. He has, I think, 4 home runs since the All-Star break. So we would get offered a trade from the Dodgers, and it's a really interesting one. Sixto Sanchez for Gavin Lux. Sixto hasn't exactly worked out at the big league level. He's played pretty well in AAA this year, and I still want to give him a chance. But on paper, this is a great trade for us. Gavin Lux is a good young player who is legitimately breaking out. He has an 840 OPS. He can play basically every position. I think he could be a candidate to be a long-term shortstop or some other position because he can play all over the diamond. I'm not going to make this trade right now, but it's an idea I want to keep going into the trade deadline because I think Gavin Lux will be a great pickup. We ended up losing the first game against Boston. That'll bring us into Game 2. But before that, I want to show you guys the process of signing our draft picks. So we've got 7 opportunities over a 21-day span to sign our picks. And we're going to start with our top guys, including Hitoki Nomo. I thought about it for a little bit. Even though he's injured, I think we will try to sign him, but I will try to leverage his injury into him taking on less money. So we will start with our first rounder, Ronald Landino, offering him 4.6. He says no, not a big deal. We still have plenty of opportunities to offer. We're going to do Ryan Poles next, and he accepts. That's our first pick to sign. I think we're going to offer Hitoki Nomo now, but I'm going to offer him the minimum, $1.61 million. He says no. Next up, we're going to look at Steven Ilez, our other third-round pick. He ends up signing. After that, we're going to do Charles Harris, our fourth-round pick, for $5.12. He will sign that. We're going to do our sixth-round pick, Johnny Lundy. He will sign that. And then J.J. Cohen in the fifth round is the only player who does not have enough interest to be offered a contract. You need to have at least 50% interest. We're going to put him in the number one priority slot just so we can give him more interest quickly. Into the second opportunity to sign guys, we will again attempt to offer our top two picks. We're going to up it to 4.69 for Ronald Landino. He says yes. And then Hitoki Nomo, I noticed we can offer him a lower minimum, and he took it. We offered him less money than the first time around, and he said yes. I don't really know why, but I'm not complaining. So now we've just got J.J. Cohen left to go. We're going to simulate to the next opportunity to sign. This will be his first contract offer and his last because he accepts it. So there you go. We sign all of our players with plenty of time and money left to spare. We will find out their official ratings and development trades in the next episode after the trade deadline. Let's get back to the big league club as our Marlins head to Fenway for Game 2 of a two-game set against the Boston Red Sox. We've actually already played against the Red Sox this year. I'm a little bit surprised they have us going up against Boston twice, but oh well, it is what it is. The Red Sox are actually pretty good. They're one of the better teams in the American League, so this should be a pretty fun challenge for us as we hopefully avoid the sweep. Got a couple of lefties on the hill today, so both teams will make their lineups accordingly. For the Red Sox, it'll be the veteran and potential future Hall of Famer, Chris Sale, 4.05 ERA. He is not the same player he once was, but he's still a productive big league starter. De La Cruz goes down looking on the fastball. He thought that was a ball, but does not get the call. Jazz Chisholm up next. He's risen the average up to 245, but he will go down swinging on the fastball. Good inning for Chris Sale as we go to the bottom of the first. Trevor Rogers starting for Miami. Rogers missed a couple of months with a shoulder injury. When he's been healthy, he really hasn't been all that good. 5.67 ERA, 1.63 whip. Hopefully he can have a good start today because I think his confidence could really use it. Alex Verdugo, the first-time All-Star, singles into center. The Red Sox get themselves a base runner here in the bottom of the first inning, and that'll bring up Rafael Devers, who's honestly been the best hitter in baseball this year. Verdugo looks to swipe second. He is out of there! It looked like he was going to be safe. He got a really good jump, but Nick Fortes with a dime behind the plate, part-time ball player, full-time sniper, good tag by LeBlanc, and then Rafael Devers strikes out on the very next pitch. Good inning for Trevor Rogers. No score here at the illustrious Fenway Park, over 110 years old now. Into the second, Jorge Soler is up for Miami. We know he rakes against lefties as he draws a walk. I wouldn't want to pitch to him either, so I don't blame you, Chris Sale. That'll bring up Jesus Sanchez. He does not exactly rake lefties, and it shows as he goes down looking on the sinker. 2 scoreless so far for Chris Sale as we go to the bottom of the second. Bobby Dalbec goes down looking. Good pitch by Trevor Rogers. We're still scoreless now going into the third. Charles LeBlanc up for the Marlins. He will draw a walk. I feel like LeBlanc has been really underrated. I mean, the guy's a good player and has really carved out a good role here on this team. Gene Segura lines this one into right field. That'll go for a base hit. Miami's starting to do some business here as they've got 2 runners aboard here for the heart of the order. Brian De La Cruz is up next. He's got a full count here with 2 runners on and 1 away. Pitch from Sale, and he will draw a walk. De La Cruz's plate discipline is the weakest area of his game, so it's good to see him working the count, getting on base. And now the bases are loaded for Jazz Chisholm, who strikes out. If we've learned anything about this team, it's that they are terrible with the bases loaded, and they might have wasted another golden opportunity, or maybe not! Rowdy Tellez with a moonshot into right field. That ball is gone. A grand slam for Rowdy Tellez, and the Marlins lead it 4-0. Tellez with his 17th homer of the year. That's one way to get yourselves on the board. Tellez clears the bases with a salami, and Miami is now ahead decently big. A great swing there by Tellez as we go to the bottom of the third. Ramon Laureano's going to get one right back for the Red Sox. This one is high, deep, and gone into the Boston bullpen, and it's now 4-1. Good swing by Laureano, the longtime Oakland Athletic, who hasn't had a very good season here in Boston, but he does get the homer there. Marcelo Meyer, one of the top prospects in all of baseball, bloops this one into left, and it looks like that one is going to drop. Meyer's been pretty solid so far with the Red Sox as he gets a single here, continuing his strong rookie campaign. Trevor Story is up. He's going to ground it to third. Segura to Arise, to Tellez, and the throw is offline from Luis Arise. The double play unsuccessful. Alex Verdugo up, grounds it over to third. Segura's throw to first is again offline. The infield is really not looking too good here in this inning, keeping things alive for the Red Sox as Rafael Devers will fly this one high and deep into right field. Back at the track, at the wall, Sanchez under it, makes the play. Trevor Rogers had to get 5 outs in that inning. He does allow the homer to Ramon Laureano as it's 4-1 going into the fourth. Chris Sale still in the game, despite the fact that his pitch count is really high. Nick Fortes skies this one high and deep into center field. That one will go off the wall. Fortes will make his way over to second with a double, and the Miami Marlins start the inning with a runner in scoring position. We'll see if they can drive him in, get that run back that Boston just scored. Jesus Sanchez up to the plate, 3-2, grounds it up the middle. Really nice play by Mayer to deflect it, but Sanchez is safe at first. Fortes thought about going home. He was just trying to make sure Meyer was on his game. And from there, Chris Sale will be taken out of the game. He'll be replaced by the former Marlin, Richard Blyer, who was traded for Matt Barnes a couple off seasons ago. Barnes, of course, traded a few months ago to the Chicago Cubs. Charles LeBlanc is up, and he will ground this one past the diving glove of Marcelo Meyer. One run will score. It's an RBI double for Charles LeBlanc, and there's now 2 runners in scoring position. Miami can really give themselves a big lead here in Beantown against the former Marlin, Blyer. Luis Arise is up now. He's got 2 runners in scoring position, nobody out. Arise is one of the best clutch hitters in baseball, and sure enough, he hits this one off the monster. 1 run scores. A second will look to join him. I think the Red Sox could have gotten that second runner out had they tried to throw it to home rather than going to second and getting Arise, which they didn't. 7-1 going into the fourth. Bobby Dalbec hits that one over the glove of Charles LeBlanc, and that'll go for a leadoff single. So Dalbec will get some early base run action here for Boston. The Red Sox looking to rally with their big deficit. Christian Arroyo grounds it to Arise, to LeBlanc, over to Tellez. Unlike Miami, the Red Sox will not take advantage of their base runners, and it's a 4-6-3 double play. The catcher, Tom Murphy, is up next. He will strike out on the 2-seamer. Rogers is looking pretty good so far. 4 innings of 1-run ball. Let's move on to the 5th inning now. Jorge Soler crushes this one into center field, and that one is gone. Soler has been on an absolute tear since the break. His 4th home run since then, his 11th on the year. That ball nearly going 450 feet, and it's now 8-1. I don't know if this team has just been injected with Barry Bonds' steroids or what. They're not done, though. Very next at bat, Nick Fortes hits this ball out of the stadium as well, and it is 9-1. This offense just will not quit. Fortes with his 19th homer of the year. Richard Blyer will be taken out of the game. He'll be replaced by John Schreiber. 3.09 ERA for the righty on the year. He's been pretty good. He would get out of the inning smoothly, but the Marlins still lead by 8. Meyer grounds it to third. Segura with a nice play. That'll wrap up the 5th. Trevor Rogers still pitching really well. Do the Marlins keep him in for another inning, or do they take him out now with the team being up by 8? Luis Arise draws a walk here. Brian De La Cruz is up now. De La Cruz also draws a walk. He's drawing 2 walks today. Good to see him really with a good approach at the plate. And that'll bring up Rowdy Tellez, who of course had the grand slam back in the 3rd inning. And Tellez will draw a walk as well. Schreiber has now walked the bases loaded. And that'll bring up Jorge Soler. He homered in the previous inning. 2 away, 1-2, swinging a miss. So the Marlins are going to leave the bases loaded after all, as the score remains 9-1. into the bottom of the 6th inning now. Alex Verdugo is up for the Red Sox. Hits this one into center. That'll go for a hit. Keep in mind that Trevor Rogers is still in the game, and we'll see how much longer that Miami's going to keep him in. Rafael Devers is up now. Hits this one well into left. That'll go for another hit. So now there's 2 runners aboard here. Rogers is basically at 100 pitches or so. They're still going to keep him in, and that's going to prove to be a mistake. Bobby Dahlbeck crushes this one off the foul pole in left field for a 3-run shot. It's now 9-4, and I think it's safe to say the Marlins regret keeping Trevor Rogers in as long as they did, so they will take him out of the game at this point. 5 1/3 innings, allowing 4 runs. Still a pretty good outing for him, but things kind of went off the rails here. Jonathan Loaizaga will replace him out of the bullpen. He hasn't pitched all that well recently, 4.91 ERA, and it looks like the Red Sox might get another run. Masataka Yoshida hits this one off the wall, and the runner from third will look to score. The throw from LeBlanc is in time. They got him. What a play from the defense. Chisholm in center over to LeBlanc to the catcher as we move to the 7th. Nick Whitgren is in for Boston. 2.49 ERA on the year. He'll face off against Nick Fortes, who's had a big day so far. He's thrown out a runner, double, homer, and now he has a walk. So this is his 3rd time reaching base. The Marlins with another leadoff runner, and that will bring up Luis Arraez. 2 away, Fortes on first. Arraez grounds this one over to second. Nice play there by the Red Sox. But the Marlins still lead this game big, 9-4. That was Trevor Story, the veteran, making the play at second. Reynaldo Lopez is into the game for Miami. Hasn't pitched as well as expected this year. He'll start with Ramon Laureano, who hits this one into the center and left field corner. And Chisholm's not going to make a play on the ball. I don't know what he was doing there. Laureano will look to make it to third, and he will safely with a triple. Laureano has homered and tripled today. Boston has a runner 90 feet away from home to start the inning as they look to rally. Marcelo Meyer singles into right. That'll obviously score a run. He's going to look to turn this single into a double, and he will. So it's an extra base hit for Meyer. 9-5 now with a runner on second base. Not too long ago, the Red Sox trailed 9-1. They've cut the lead in half. It's now 9-5, but they won't cut it any further in this inning as Rafael Devers goes down looking and Lopez gets out of it. Into the 8th now, Chris Martin is in for Boston. 4.84 ERA so far this season for him. He'll face off against Brian De La Cruz, who will reach base for a 3rd time today as he hits it off the green monster. De La Cruz looking to make it safely to second, and he just barely does. It's a 1-out double for Brian De La Cruz. Runner in scoring position here for Jazz Chisholm. He's had a pretty quiet day, 0 for 4, but he lines this one nicely into right field, and that'll take 1 bounce over the wall for a ground rule double, and it is 10-5 as De La Cruz will be allowed to score. Bottom 8 now, A.J. Puck is in for Miami. He's one of the few guys who has not been good since the All-Star break. His ERA up in the 4s now. As Masataka Yoshida hits this one into left field. That'll be an RBI double, and it is 10-6. The Red Sox continuing to keep themselves afloat despite Miami's nice lead. Laureano checks his swing. That'll wrap up the 8th inning. Marlins lead by 4. We'll see if they can add any more here in the 9th as Trevor May, the veteran, will enter the game out of the bullpen. He'll face off against Nick Fortes to lead off the inning, and Fortes crushes it over the green monster. A solo homer for Fortes, who's had a game of the ages, 3 for 4, a double, 2 homers, and multiple great defensive plays. So it's now 11-6 going into the bottom of the 9th. The former Yankee Wandy Peralta is in for Miami to finish off the game as Verdugo grounds it to first. Rowdy Tellez steps on the bag. 1-2-3 inning. We've got ourselves a final. 11-6. The Marlins defeat the Boston Red Sox. Another game where the Marlins offense scores double-digit runs. This offense continues to be nothing short of electric. Nobody had more than 1 hit other than Nick Fortes, who had 3, 2 of which were homers. Rowdy Tellez, obviously, with a big grand slam. Soler went deep as well. I think we had 6 or maybe even 7 guys driving runs. Trevor Rogers was pretty good. Things kind of fell off the rails in the 6th inning, but for the most part, I thought he was pretty solid. Nonetheless, the Red Sox offense wasn't too bad with 3 runs in the 6th, 2 more after that, but too little too late. They could not come back from the big deficit. So we're going to simulate these next 4 games against the Phillies, and these 4 games are actually pretty important. because we are very close with them in the division and wild card standings. We're currently 2 games ahead of them, so it'd be nice if we did well. And we're getting a lot of trade offers here. Chris Martin for Jorge Soler. We just saw Martin in this past game with the Red Sox. I think I'm good. He's 37 years old, and his ERA is nearly in the 5s. The Twins were offered as Griffin Jacks for Jorge Soler. Ironic, because Soler hit a homer off of Jacks earlier today. Not as bad of a deal, but I'm going to still say no. The Mariners offers Devin Smelter for Justice Sheffield. Sheffield's younger and maybe a little bit better, so it's not a bad idea to hold on to, but for now I'm going to say no. Seattle clearly really wants Devin Smelter because they offered another deal with him the next day, this time for outfielder Matt Frazier. Again, not really a bad deal. We'll keep our eye on it. Then the Nationals offer is this. Braxton Garrett for Robert Hassell, who's a pretty good outfield prospect. We had him in the Guardian series last year. I'm not going to do it because this is a total fleece. I don't know why the Nationals would do this. Hassell's a pretty good prospect. The Nationals are a bad team, so I don't see any reason to why they would do that. And then finally, we've got a trade here from the Astros, Braxton Garrett for Eric Lauer, 2 pretty similar players. Lauer's making $6 million, while Garrett is making $600,000. So I think we're going to say no to that. We would end up getting swept by the Phillies. That's not good. We only scored 7 runs in those games. This game in particular really hurts because Sandy Alcantara had another complete game shutout going into the 9th. He allowed 2. We yanked him. And then Jordan Hicks blew his first save of the entire season. So this series sweep could really change our plans going into the deadline. If we were 55-51 on pace for a playoff spot, we're probably buyers. But now that we're behind the Phillies, 3.5 games behind the last wildcard spot, it very well could change our strategy. There are some good players on the block. Notice that Brian Reynolds is not there. Maybe the Pirates have changed their mind on him. But nonetheless, we've got a lot of interesting things we could do during this deadline. Do you guys think we should go out and buy and push for a playoff spot? Do you think we should sell off some veteran players and expiring contracts? Do you think we should stand pat? Or should we do a little bit of both, of buying and selling? Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Peace out.